All right, welcome to another episode of Conversation Starters from Powerhouse Conversations, brought to you by Dream Big Sports. I'm your host, Dream Big Fred, and I have Darian with me. We got a pretty exciting list of topics that's coming up this week. It's been a couple weeks since we talked to you all, so definitely we're excited to talk to you. We got some things, a lot of things going on. Darian, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. There's a lot going on in the sports world. We're right in the middle of, NFL college football season. The first playoff rankings just came out, so a lot of people, talking about that. But it's a great time to be in the sports world and following a lot what's going on, not just on the professional level, but also what's going on with college. So I'm loving it right now. How's everything been on? Yeah.
Good, man. Busy, but we're growing in Dream Big Sports. We've been speaking to different schools, different programs. Powerhouse Conversations is growing. Getting content out there, pushing the content, making sure we're getting information out. Make sure you all subscribe to the newsletter. Making sure we're getting all that information out. Some good information for student athletes, for athletic administrators. Been able to talk to a lot of student athletes, see what their problems are. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get some information out there and keep growing. What's been good on your end?
Man, focusing on, wrapping up this, last semester of school, as I was mentioning, I'm working on a project right now, geared towards, providing resources to athletic departments and athletes as far as media is concerned to help bolster any type of NIL initiatives. So that's been great because I've been able to talk to different, people from the athletic department side of things, and also, individuals that are on the sponsorship side as well, to try to, pick their brain and understand, the ROI on different media projects. But yeah, that project's taking up most of my time, and also pumping out content, with the Jersey Sports Network, as far as NIL, as well as some other things that are going on in the sports business world as well. So it's a great time for us.
I love it, love it, love it. But man, let's hop into it, man.
Let's
I
do it.
think one of the big things that has happened over the last couple of days is the election, right?
Right.
Trump got reelected. Obviously that's crazy. That's wild. There's a lot of mixed feelings about that, but we want to hit it from the perspective of how is this impacting sports? Because one of the things that I thought about was like just legislation, right? I was reading like Republicans wanted to limit the employment status and give protection to the NCAA, empower the leagues to grant them oversight and regulations, but Democrats emphasize more rights of the athlete, express and openness to employee protections, as well as their health and their educational access and gender equity rights. So politics is always like, that's always going to be a big thing. You're coming from one side, like who's right. So to me, it sounds like, the Republicans were giving more power to the universities and the schools, and the Democrats wanted to protect the athletes. So regardless of what side you're on, like whose side, like, that you are going for from a sports perspective, it's important to understand how this was going to impact you. And this is something that we probably should have talked about before the election, but it's good to talk about after the election to understand how that's going to impact you, especially with some of these bills that are going to be passed. So that's something that I definitely think is going to be important. How do you think it's going to impact the student athlete?
Yeah, I think that when you talk about the employment status, and that also the fact that a guy like Senator Ted Cruz has also had a roundtable with the likes of Nick Saban, and the Cavender twins, and kind of, having these ongoing conversations of what the NIL landscape is going to look like from a political standpoint. I mean, it's going to be interesting because when the conversation started around, and we were in the early stages of when these conversations are happening, but now we're getting into, I want to say year 3 and 4, and now it's another level of things you have to consider, especially with, schools now, distributing money, back pay in the sense, to college athletes, how that money is going to be distributed. And also, where is the legislation going to side as far as, not only protecting the athletes, but also figure out for the collectives, how much free reign do they have as far as interaction with the athletes, and, from a legal perspective, and, what laws are going to be in place to kind of create some checks and balances with that. So I think that's, the relationship between, the athletes and legislation is going to be interesting for me to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, federal NIL legislation has been debated, but still not passed. And over 30, from what I saw so far, like over 30 plus states have passed their own NIL laws, but it's like, it's nothing that is all set in stone. Like I was talking to some athletes in Alabama, and they're still not, as far as especially the high school sport, it's still not legislated there. So there's nothing for NIL. They can't do anything right now. That's just something that's to watch out for. Like states like Alabama are slower to get these things passed through because they're just behind on the time. So it's like, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see how that is going to be legislated, especially with the House and the Senate being Republican as well as the president being Republican. Those laws are going to be, it's probably going to lean heavily towards the businesses and the organization for them to be, be more protected. But I think it's very important that the student athletes understand how they can be protected, how it's going to impact them, and how they're going to be able to run themselves as a business, and how they should.
Yeah, and you bring up, just to kind of put a bow on it. I mean, one of the things I wanted to pose to you is, we talk about the athletes specifically in a place like Alabama, as you mentioned, when it comes to, getting up to date with the law specifically around, what athletes can do. From your perspective, from talking to those athletes, like, what do you think, like, what do you predict is gonna happen? Are we gonna see something where, like, these high school athletes, these athletes are going to go to another state if they're real, like, if how are they
Yeah,
circumventing kind of that the slowness for those
no,
laws? Like, what are they doing in the meantime?
yeah. I mean, have high school athletes are elite. Like I could think of the school, my alma mater, the high school I went to. They just lost a big time athlete. He's being recruited by Alabama. He's one of the top athletes in the states, and he left and went to a prep school in Virginia. And it's like you're going to continue to lose athletes if you cannot pay. So that's one thing that is very, very big. That if you're a big time athlete and you're in a state that is not able to get in, then they're just going to leave. Like once they get those type of opportunities, and like what incentive do they have to stay if they can go somewhere else and be able to capitalize on that, make money, and have better competition, better opportunities to play against better competition. Um, and I think that's going to be something that we'll see a lot of until the state, gets on board and tries to put things in position where the athletes can capitalize on their name, image, and likeness.
Definitely something to follow.
For sure. I think that that'll drive us to our next topic: the influence on the NIL, the influence of NIL on college football ratings. So I think that's huge. Like I'll bring before we dive into some of the things that we see from it. I want to pull up the rankings to kind of give an idea of where we're sitting at. So in the first NIL ranking, I mean the first college football playoff ranking, sitting at the top four, we have Oregon at 1, Ohio State at 2, Georgia at 3, Miami at 4, Texas at 5, Penn State at 6, Tennessee at 7, Indiana at 8, BYU at 9, Notre Dame at 10, Alabama at 11, and Boise State at 12. Like just off the real, what stands out to you?
Yeah, I think for me, as I look at this, as we probably predicted, that the kind of the difference in the landscape of, like, okay, you're gonna have, even though we stress that there's a power, 5 or 4, it's pretty much mainly, those teams that are from the Big Ten and the SEC that are dominating, a better portion of that, of that list. And then I think also too, that's going to reflect off the field. I think that in positive and in ways that can be, particularly challenging, where, I think it'll be a positive in the sense that that 12 spot, or I believe it's that last spot, where like a group of 5 can get in, right? So you think of the exposure that could create, for athletes. When you think about on the NIL level, you think of like a Boise State, or, someone who's of that out, you think of like an Ashton Genty, who's, you know, one of the top, athletes that's going for the Heisman right now. You think of all those types of exposure, that it could bring, for his brand as well as the team's brand. So I think that it creates a lot of opportunities on and off the field, but it seems like most of the list is being dominated by, the power to the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading something. Big Ten and the SEC schools are projected to earn a combined $100 million more in annual media rights revenue than any other conference starting in 2026. So, like you just said, it's going that a hundred. Not at first when I read it, I thought it was just $100 million, but they
Right.
said $100 million more than anybody else. Like that's insane. So that's like you're going to like if you're getting that money, then you're likely going to see the talent follow. And the talent is going to go to these conferences and they're going to continue to go to these conferences because that's where the money is. And that's going to be the same thing. But like you said, I think I saw the expanded college football playoff format gives the conferences a significant advantage with 4 teams each currently projected in the record. So I think like that's going to be something to watch out for because when the other small teams sneak in, it is an opportunity to play against those top schools on the top, platform and in front of everybody because we talked about those media right deals. So that is something that is going to be big and major to some of these smaller schools, like you said, of Boise State. And then, like we talked about the conference realignments, like BYU going to the Big 12. Like since joining the Big 12, BYU revenues from the conference distribution has increased by 30%, reflecting on the financial benefits of joining a Power Five conference. So like when these schools are able to sneak in, now they get on the radar of these bigger schools. And like I said, it's just going to continue the top conferences are going to continue to poach and get talent. Also, to a certain extent, it's almost like okay, well, they're going to like it's going to be a shuffle, right? If you're not getting it done, they might start send you down, pull somebody else up. Like so, I think it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, and you look at those brands that are when you look at that list, if you just look at the top five, along with Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, and Texas, when you think about if I'm a recruit, if I'm thinking about you know, where I would want to go or schools I'm considering, not only are those brands big, but you think about Ohio State dedicating 20 million to NIL, Oregon, who's number one team in the rankings, has a unlimited NIL budget, with Phil Knight at the helm and, with Nike. So it's going to be, interesting to see, also how these teams, as we, get into more years of the 12 team playoff, where the talent lies, as you said, and even for a team like BYU going to the Big 12, you got to also look at it from a media standpoint. The Big 12 has contracts, with the likes of, an ESPN and, as well as I believe in ABC. So, you're going to be on TV a lot more, being a part of a Power Five conference like the Big 12 as well. So that's going to, add to as much exposure as possible for those athletes. So, like you said, we'll have to follow this and monitor this.
Yeah, yeah. I think that another big thing that I saw from the rankings is the influence that NIL is having on it from like just think about the schools that are in there. Miami is the one that sticks out the most to me is because like they bet big on Cam Ward and raising all of that money. So I saw that they collectively report they raised over $10 million in NIL deals, which directly impacted talent that they brought in. And like I said, fueled by Cam Ward and the season that he's having, like he's literally like willing them to win week after week. And like they're right now they're sitting at number 4 and with a 9-0 record, and like it paid off. Like they bet big and they won big, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, like as you mentioned, you're gonna have to not only put forth the funds but also identify the talent. I think that also too,
Yeah,
Cam Ward isn't just any old whatever. I believe he's the Heisman front runner right now, and he's a proven quarterback, and just the route he had to travel, having to I believe go to small college route and then ultimately moving up in the rankings. So he's really proved himself. So he's definitely setting a precedent at Miami in this NIL era of like what you can become, whether from quarterback to just any primetime player. Like Miami is the place to be because they invest in talent.
I think one thing it makes me think about is it potentially opens up for free agency for quarterbacks. Like if I'm a school, then I can go into free agency every year and get a quarterback, and you by using NIL and potentially like, hey, we got top dollar for the best quarterback, because the quarterback can change your season, it could change your program, it could change everything about what you're doing. And if you're a quarterback and you are like, you can put yourself in the market every year. Every single year you can be on the market. Well, like I said, if you're at small school, you can go prove yourself, and then you can put yourself on the market and make a lot of money, and then you can make a big run as long as you're invested in other positions. Then you definitely can you can go find a game changer every year. And maybe think about Michigan's, the guy from Barcelona, I can't think of his name right now, Dave
Dave
Portnoy.
Portnoy.
Yeah. He said that he had, forgot how much it was, but he said he had over, like $1 million or something like that every year for the best quarterback. And I don't see why any booster or collective wouldn't do the same thing for their program, because quarterback is what's going to change it every time. Quarterback is what's going to be the driver of your program. So if you don't have the quarterback that you need, put up the money, get the quarterback every year. It's like having the
Yeah.
ability to go out and change your program every year.
And then you also got to think too with these schools with these big brands. You think of like a Michigan, or a Texas, and Miami, and you can even throw Arkansas in there to some degree because of the connection that they have, to the to Walton family and Walmart and Tyson Chicken. Like a lot of these schools, you also have to factor in, who are they aligned and attached to from a celebrity standpoint and a business standpoint. How are they pulling these funds together? Because it's like you can you have an NIL strategy, because you said if you don't have the talent, if you don't have the try to, especially at the quarterback position, I think that we're going to see more quarterbacks that are available because we have a development problem in the NFL right now. They're going to probably want to stay more, and with the 12-team playoff, they can get more starts. If you're on a competitive team. And so I think that you're going to see more QBs, in the future, kind of shuffling and going places, especially with the portal being open as well. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a combination of the transfer portal, NIL, and big money that's being generated. So I think that it's something that is going to be that we definitely have to keep an eye on. But my next thing I want to transition into is the business trends in women's college basketball. I think this is going to be something that's big post Caitlin Clark era, post Angel Reese, like who's going to take the mantle, and who's going to capitalize on the eyes that are already on there. My money is on Juju. I think she is the best player in college. I think she's all. I honestly believe that Juju Watkins is one of the best women basketball players in the world. Period. She's in college right now, but I think she's already one of the best women's basketball players in the world, and I cannot wait to see. I want to go see her in person this year. She's amazing, and I think that she's gonna be able to capitalize. You've already been seeing her in all these these commercials and stuff like that deal. So like she's gonna kill it in NIL. I saw that female athletes represent about 25% of total NIL deals, and that was in 2023. I'm pretty sure that number is increasing. So I think that's gonna be huge.
Yeah, and I think another thing to pay attention to as well on top of that is, you think about the sponsorship surge and the viewership, right? It was reported that women's college viewership increased over 20% in 2023. So when you think of the correlation between, how many, how many views, but how much viewership the game, women's college basketball is getting overall. When you think about, for example, Paige, Becker's at UConn, and UConn and USC, I believe, are doing a home and away series that I think is starting. I want to say, if not around Christmas, December, January, around that time. and that's actually going to be on Fox, right? A major media network, and I'm sure that's going to smash viewership records. But I think when we look at the context of NIL within the frame of women's college basketball, I think we're going to see a new era where I think you're going to see the full landscape of how these women's college basketball players are involved in NIL compared to last year. I feel like last year it was more so Caitlin and Angel on like this pedestal, and then there was kind of if you got talked about here and there, that was one thing. But I think this year, because you have people who are staying in school and transferred, and just the breadth of these athletes, like it's not just two athletes, like you mentioned Juju Watkins, but you also have Paige Beckers, you also have Malaysia Fulwiley from South Carolina, recently, not recently, but as a part of signed the NIL deal with Red Bull, and is also a Curry brand athlete as well, and that Under Armour connection. You have Flage. So I think it's just so
Yep.
many. You're going to see so many. You're going to really see, I guess, the full breadth of these major brands, and just how expansive and how deep these brands are interacting with these women's college basketball players. It's going to be on a different level coming this season for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got think about that. They outpaced or they outperformed the men in the championship game. And they had 18.9 million viewers last year. So to capitalize on that, like you said, the fact that they have to come back, and like you just said, they got stars. Like they have stars in their sport. Like you just rolled off a lot of names. How many people can roll off names in college basketball? Like men, for men. It's not a lot of people, but you can roll the women's names off your tongue. And like you said, Flage, like I think she just performed at Louisiana Fest, right? With Lil Wayne, if I'm not mistaken. She's everywhere. She's a star. Paige is a star. Like Paige is a star. Like just the swagger and everything that comes with it. Paige is a star. Like Juju is like more laid back, but Paige is a star. Now, it's gonna be pretty exciting because I think the Sparks have the number one pick, right?
I believe they have the number one pick for next year's
Yeah.
draft. So
So
that'll be interesting to see.
Paige in LA is gonna be fun. Paige in LA is gonna be fun.
But I think
Women,
what was
women,
was also go
What? No, I'm saying women's basketball is in a great place. Actually, let me take the time to shout out my boy Tyler March. Just got the job in Chicago for the Chicago Sky head coaching job. So big salute to Tyler March. I have with Angel, Reese, and everybody over there. So I'm expecting big things out of Tyler this year. But yeah, back to what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna, just add on that. I think that what you're also gonna see with this particular, class of women's college basketball players, like you mentioned, there's so many stars. But I think as the season goes on, and by the time we get to the end of the season, around tournament time, and when it's time for a lot of these women to transition into the WNBA, I feel like you're gonna see more market movers where you would
Mm-hmm.
we in sports expect like our superstars to be in big markets, right? As you mentioned, like Paige, the Sparks have the number one pick, next year. So it's like we would love to see Paige in a big market like LA, but you also have to factor in that not every women's college basketball player that's getting drafted is going to go to a big market, but given where we're at with NIL, and you have March Madness, and there's so much viewership, you're going to see them really build and expand their brand. So by the time they get to the W, they are no matter where they go, they're going to be that spark plug for that city or that brand and that organization, because they already did it in college.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's gonna be huge. Especially I was looking at the unrivaled league that's going on. So that's gonna be huge. I just saw something that said that Caitlin Clark's deal would be substantially more than her WNBA contract. So it's like if they can make this thing become bigger and get more eyes like that. I think that was genius to put that 3-on-3 league together, because now you're able to build the brands of more athletes, get them in front of people for a longer period of time. And so I think that's going to be huge to building their brands, and them being able to obviously make more money. And if they're making more money, then they can continue to grow the sport of women's basketball, and not have to sacrifice some, by going overseas and stuff like that when they're not being seen because they're just going over there to make money. But if they can do it over here, then that's going to be huge for them. Absolutely. Finally, I want to close out with some NBA stuff, man. I think NBA season's kicked off. My boy Katie starting off with the Suns. They're doing really good. 7-1, a big win last night, closed out. But what I've been seeing is the viewership has been down in the NBA. So it's very interesting to see how they're going to do that with the older guys. Steph, KD, and Braun, like they broke records with the Olympics this summer with viewership, and had the viewers tuned in to watch. But how is that going to translate to the NBA, especially as they transition out of the NBA? So, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that that's interesting because, the NBA is going to, as a product, I think the sports product landscape has changed. I think the NBA is now really kind of like fighting for attention. When you think about, the way that NFL now, has a Thursday night game and the Sunday night game and a Monday night game, and then the Christmas, I
Mm-hmm.
believe that there are games coming on Christmas as well. So I think that they're in they're kind of like fighting for their lives, because it's like, the NFL is
Yeah,
kind of really expanding its wings. But I also think that, I think it was Shaq who was kind of talking about just, the product, like NBA itself is like everybody's running the same plays. Everybody is, playing style is the same. Like we're kind of seeing the same things over and over again. But I don't think that this is going to I don't think this is going to be a continuing trend. I just think that it's just because, I
yeah,
think the NBA is going through a lot of transition right now, just, coming off signing a new media deal. Then you have TNT, sports is this is the last season for that. So it's a lot of moving parts. And you also have the in-season tournament coming up. So the NBA is competing
I
with
was
a
just about to
lot
say
of
that.
different things right now. You know what I mean? It's like football is dominating. Then you throw in the fact that you now have a college football playoff on top of that. So you have college football now way into January. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think it's very important to understand that they are competing with football, which I've always said that I think they should shift. I think they should shift their schedule. They may not want to do it, but I think they should shift their schedule because if they can shift it to last longer into the summer, when a lot, because like the way that, because I feel like the NFL is picking on them, honestly. Like they're flexing their muscle. I feel like the NFL is flexing their muscle, and like the NBA used to own Christmas. So the NFL
Exactly.
is like, oh, you thought you owned it? Okay. You see who really owns the American people, right? And I think that if I was the NBA, then shift your season and now you go and you big boy baseball. Baseball is struggling to get viewers. You shift your time schedule to go into their season. Like you play into the summer. And I think that would be something that I would consider. Maybe they don't feel like they have to, but I think it's worth considering. The second thing is I think they're gonna bet a lot on the in-season tournament. I think that it was interesting. It was exciting if they can capitalize on that, especially like if they can get like a lot of a lot of players were hurt last year, so they can get a lot of young players to be on that spotlight. If Ant-Man actually takes it serious and they're in the tournament, Ja Morant, like they need these young guys. I think a lot of people have been trying to pit, and it's not good for the sport, been trying to pit American players against foreign players and thinking that because they're foreign, that's why people aren't watching. I don't think that that's the case. I think that people are going to watch sports, period. Like if your favorite player is from Timbuktu, like they're still going to watch. So you need to, like, I think that that's a bad narrative for our, like, and it's crazy because it's an American thing. Like, it's like, yeah, she goes back to election. Like, it's like, why do we feel we have to divide people based on where they're from? Like, they are playing now, if it was a non-American team, then okay, cool. Have your American pride, but they play for American teams. So like, what is the point of dividing? Oh yeah, we don't have an American star. Like, so what? If you go to Dallas right now, Do you think anybody in Dallas cares that Luka is not American? No, they do not care. You go to Denver,
Right.
they do not care that Jokic
Right.
is not American. If you go to Milwaukee, they do not care that Giannis is Greek. They don't care. So why does NBA media and media personalities try to divide people based on where they're from? Like, it's the NBA basketball brand, and the brand is going to be important to keep lifting. So to say that we need this next American young talent, I think is just false. You just need to you continue to grow the brand of basketball.
Yeah.
But
And
like I said, go ahead.
no. I was let you finish.
No, I was gonna say, like, but the Ant-Mans of the world, like I said, the John Morant's cleaning up his image, like that's gonna be huge. He's coming back, he's balling. Devin Booker, just keep on growing the young talent. Jason Tatum, like I think it's gonna be very, very big for them moving forward to continue to grow the NBA.
Yeah, and I also think that the NBA, as you mentioned, the in-season tournament, I think that, another thing that they have to consider as well, with the in-season tournament is, you know, I think last year was the courts, right? How the courts look and trying to get people excited about the court reveals. I think they got to continue to do that. I think
Yeah.
also with the jerseys as well, there were, the different organizations had different, themed jerseys for the in-season tournament. I think they have to grow and expand their brand, as you said. But I agree with you. I don't think the NBA has a lack of young American stars or whatnot. Like you said, I just think that it's just more exposure, and it's just a tough time for the NBA right now with with other sports, taking, different leaps and bounds. And, then they're trying to figure out ways to, make their brand more, not necessarily appealing, but I think that they have to also cater to the average fan, right? I feel like, there's so many casual fans, as I said in football, who have Amazon, right? So they're going to watch the game. Or if you have Peacock, you have all these other streaming platforms, they already have the NFL, football games right there for you, ready to access. So the NBA has to adapt as much as they can if they want to be competitive.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. So as we wrap up, man, I definitely think, this is going to be something to keep an eye on. A college football playoff is definitely going to give us a lot of content,
Sure.
moving forward. It's definitely going to keep an eye on, the college, basketball, as that men's and women. We didn't get to touch on
To the
men's,
Mets.
but we'll definitely touch on that next time. And I think I think NIL is going to be a big driving force behind college sports moving forward. And I think that, we're going to have to keep an eye on how that impacts, because it's going to, everything off the field is going to impact on the field. And, it's going to be big. But man, make sure y'all follow me at Dream Big Fred. Make sure, give them your socials and everything, Darren, and we'll close it out.
Yep, definitely. Make sure you follow the Jersey Sports Network on Instagram, and also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DK Sports.
All right. See y'all next week.
Right.